Anti-Afro Svengalis, I hope you had a chance to check out the precursor for this commentary. I'm placing the link below the title because I'm going to go right in and just follow up from the clips that you heard. The first thing I want to point out is when Dempsey first got to YouTube, it was already preset what his agenda was. His goal was to come here to unload and try to make himself appear to be something that he wasn't. He's held on to that. That's his YouTube identity. And what is that identity? Attacking women primarily. First and foremost, it's attacking women, then attacking black men with intact families. So that was a preset agenda based on his failings pre YouTube. And those failings have continued. He uses this line claiming to be down with women. And I'm sorry, Tiff P, if your name keeps coming up, but you said that he was nice off YouTube. At this point in time, I really don't have much of a logical choice but to believe there was collusion in you making these statements and you trying to pretend that if he's attractive to the point where a woman like you would flock to him. When I say like you are a nice looking woman. While we know looks mean different things to different people, but you would think someone like Dempsey would be among your only choices. You wouldn't have other options to get with other brothers. This would be the person that you'd be traveling out of town to get with because he's a draw to you. Then when it comes to, like you stated, effing the dog shit out of him, this person gives you those feelings. You are telling us you are so sexually attracted to this dude. This is what you would go for if you just wanted to go for straight lust. Well, excuse me now. If you're going to go for straight lust, we're adults here. You wouldn't try to find a man that really turns you on. I'm sorry, honey. I'm not buying it. I don't believe Dempsey physically turns you on. I don't believe it. Not for 1 second. And I'm giving my opinion because I'm here doing the video. I don't believe it. He's dumpy. And that mouth is ratchet and abusive. You find that attractive? And you even said he was criticizing you because of your weight. That's an attractive man for you? This is someone you say is very different offline and he's very nice? Huh? Nice offline while he is engaging in criminal activity online? Help us out here because this doesn't make any sense. He's always had this negative attitude towards black women. Very hateful, very resentful, very abusive. And you see the second there's a disagreement, the second someone says something he doesn't like, and she's a woman, she's a bitch, she's a fat bitch, she's a broke bitch, she's a whore, she's a slut, she's a horrible mom. And I cut out names in that video with the clips because he was mentioning people's names, talking about women's bodies. What the hell does a woman's body have to do with having a disagreement with someone? Someone reciting history, they're a bitch. Of course, because it's a woman. Someone reciting history, he's on the DL. But again, these were predetermined dispositions that he had based on his own experience. He's still holding on to the name calling people fat bitches, and he's screaming and hollering about, you're talking about my wife. But he's calling women fat bitches. You know, time and time again, he verbally abused his own wife. And I wouldn't be surprised if you haul up and hit him in the face. And I'm not advocating for domestic violence. I'm not supporting domestic violence. But his behavior every bit fits the profile because he's also threatening violence. He's talking about traveling out of state to perpetrate violence. in response to the fact that people are talking about what's the truth and nobody's threatening him. No one's threatening his family. This is a therapist who paid for a contraband to threaten sexual assault upon a 7-year-old. He paid for that. Makes a lot of sense now. Didn't appear to give a shit back then, and sure as hell didn't give shit to the point where he would pay someone to threaten sexual assault upon a 7-year-old. It's becoming even more clear. Some of you don't know, but Dempsey ran a live stream with several people where he facilitated a discussion about Lennon Honor abusing his wife. Obviously a lie. I don't live there, but I'm going to tell you it's a lie until you produce evidence, like we produced, that his wife is a convicted child abuser. But he facilitated this discussion out of the blue and also played an audio of one of Lennon's children reading. And they were saying the child had reading disabilities and started determining that he needed special ed. Wait a minute. Who is he really talking about? Now that you have more information, one has to wonder. Every single negative outcome that fell upon his family, he wanted it to be true and even worse. When it came to other people's families, forget the topic at hand. I'm going to talk about your family, and I'm going to put something on your family that's horrendous. You have to wonder to what extent he was talking about his own family, because what actually happened, no, it wasn't Lennon's wife who hauled off and slapped her child in the face with the fly swatter. It was Dempsey's wife who hauled off and slapped their child in the face with the fly swatter, got arrested, was charged, and pled guilty. She pled guilty because she was guilty. He wanted that to be true about everybody else's family, but his was pristine and upstanding and perfect. And whoever has a problem with it, you can simply not come here. But I'm going to talk about it. He paid for people's lives to be threatened. He paid for me to be threatened with rape and murder. He got off on it. He paid for Lennon to be accused of cyberbullying Umar Johnson's daughter, a false police report. He paid for the rumors to be passed around about Gerald being on the DL, Lennon running around hooking up with gay men. This is something he preset when he came. Obviously, if you are sitting around obsessing over intact families and the men's virility, look at the mirror. Who are you going to see in it? You're not going to see Lennon. You're not going to see Gerald. You're not going to see E and J. You're going to see Dempsey. He's the one making the statements about everybody's sexuality. It's a compulsion that he brought here and put us on the receiving end of it. This freak went to the extent, went all the way out there to go and find a photo. Actually, Umar Johnson found the photo. Went and found a photo of a Mexican woman who looks heavyset and said it was me. How and why? Because she worked in a district attorney's victim witness program. And because I work with victims, I also work with people who have criminal justice issues. It's not exclusive to victims. But at any rate, that was their angle. So this is a photo that Dempsey decided to start passing around, and he put my name up there. And I always said it. If this is a case, where's the link? Show the link where you got this. He never would, because we knew it was bogus. We knew it was bogus, and we didn't want to do a public campaign to find the person, because that means we would put the person's photo out there, putting the person in even more danger. So I did what I felt I needed to do by contacting the authorities so this person could be made aware this is a therapist putting someone's life at risk deliberately. He's that invested in calling me a fat Mexican. This motivation is pre-YouTube, pre-knowing I even existed. He was going to do that to anyone he could. Fat bitches, DL brothers, child molesters, NAMBLA members. This is what he's all wrapped up in. This is all abusive behaviors. And where did the abuse take place? In his own freaking home. Now, anyone out there listening, tuning in, very well could have had a CPS case. Who's coming onto YouTube telling everybody else they have CPS cases, or telling everybody else they've been arrested, or telling everybody else they're criminals? He's the one that's living with the convicted child abuser, and he's running around here calling people child molesters and criminals and registered sex offenders. And in most instances, his information is false. He hasn't produced a single document. He is the one that was running around paying people to look up court records and post it online. He was paying for that. But he turns around and says, I'm paying for it. But let's make this work. If he's saying I'm paying for things, then I beat him then, right? I beat Dempsey because he's the one that's supposed to be a millionaire. He's the rich one, right? He makes millions a year. He said this out of his mouth. He makes millions per year, but all I need to do is pay somebody, even pay a husband. Pay a husband. Does that make any sense to anybody? I'm paying a husband to defend his wife. But you know what? Maybe it does make sense because you would have to pay Dempsey to defend that, to defend a child abuser, to defend a woman who is heavyset when he's running around here calling everybody else fat. He's not defending his wife. He's pissed because his fraud has been exposed year after year after year. He loved it. He got off on it, laughing, cackling, just over the moon. Couldn't get enough of himself, that he was talking shit about other people's families and paying people to say things that he knew were never true, laughing at the CPS reports that were false. These are false reports that were made on Lyndon Honor, and he up there paid for it all. He wanted it to be true. He wanted Lyndon Honor to suffer some sort of child welfare issue because he suffered that. And yes, there was a CPS case open. That would be ridiculous. That would be derelict. It would be illegal not to have a CPS case alongside a criminal conviction for child abuse. You're damn right CPS was involved. What happened with that case? I don't know, because that would be confidential. A CPS case would be confidential unless the person was actually prosecuted rather than taking a plea. She took a plea. Most cases end in plea bargains. 94 plus in state and federal court. That's not unusual. But had the case gone to trial, then the CPS case would have been public domain because it would have been discussed in open court, and courts are open. This is criminal court. This is not juvenile court. This is not juvenile delinquency or dependency court, which is what juvenile court handles. This is adult criminal court. And when there is a child victim, the deemed competent would have been testifying. And I seriously doubt a 5-year-old would be able to testify, but there would have been some process of demonstrating and showing the injuries, that sort of thing. But it didn't happen because it was a plea deal. It occurred just the way I said it did. I stated she was arrested for a felony and pled to a lesser charge. She is in the child abuse registry in the state of Texas, so she cannot legally work with any children or any healthcare industry. If she's working in billing, that wouldn't matter. You still have to be run through the child abuse registry and you would be disqualified. That's what it is. It's a fact. He doesn't like the fact that this happened, but that's his family. That happened in his family. He didn't like it, so he wants to make it reality for everybody else's family. Everything he could find that was negative, he was bound and determined to put it on another family when it was totally and completely false. All he does is get up there and lie to try to soothe the sting, the angst, the anger that his life turned out to be the way it is. And I'm going to reemphasize the baby daddy aspect. He's up here running around talking about people having children out of wedlock. So did he. The child was 5 years old in 2007. They got married in 2004. Here's the documentation. You are a baby daddy. Your now wife was a baby mama. Who is he to run around here attacking people for having children out of wedlock? And the people who have children and they're not married, most of them are living together. But he's not even living with his so-called wife in name only. He's angry because everybody else's situation is actually better than his versus him making it appear that it's worse. And he can no longer run around with this facade. That's why he's continuing to attack the brothers and tell them that they're flunkies. They are all up my ass. They do what I say. He knows it's not true. He's just pissed because he's been defeated, but he knocked himself out. This is a circumstance that he created. Nobody told him to come up here purping a fraud. That was his choice exclusively. It doesn't matter if anyone decides to talk about the situation with Dempsey and his wife being a convicted child abuser. It doesn't make any difference to me whether somebody talks about it or not. I'm talking about it. The fact that someone else doesn't want to talk about it has no bearing on what I'm going to do. So continue crying and whining and screaming and whining. Whenever I want to talk about this, I'm going to talk about it. This freak got up here for 5 years spreading all kinds of lies on people. He is going to get this work when it comes to the truth being told. He set it up to be just how it is. And yes, we're running a contest. There's a lot of things that Dempsey told you about and he lied, like his tax situation. I'm going to post another video about that. That's another scam that's been revealed. We never believed Dempsey when he said he was making all this money. He stole money. If someone with millions of dollars is going to steal, it's going to be stealing millions of dollars. They're not going to steal $8,000. This is so ridiculous. But his cover has been blown. I mean, it was never much of a cover anyway, because we could tell the way he talks that he was lying. And then he came out, didn't tell you all that he got jacked up with the Medicare fraud case. He didn't come on here and say, this is what they're doing to me, and this is bogus because somebody in my office messed up the books. What? He said his wife was working in the office. There's no mention of anybody else managing any books. He stole the money because he had access to other therapists' billing information. That's how he was able to steal the money. He's a calculated thief, running around here threatening violence. And, you know, self-defense is legal in all 50 states. He's running around going out of state in order to fight somebody. His ass should be arrested at the airport. That's what should happen. He doesn't know what else to do, so he becomes violent, just like his wife didn't know what to do when two toddlers, listen to me, two toddlers arguing over a toy. She decides to haul off and hit the 5-year-old in the face with the fly swatter. It doesn't matter. Somebody that's 185 pounds using physical force on a child. Yes, that's abuse, people. And I am glad she got her ass arrested. She should have been arrested. Well, he has been following in her footsteps. He just hasn't been arrested for it because he has paid people to perpetrate criminal behavior. He has paid money for people to engage in illegal activity. So his time is coming down the pike as well. He wants to keep up this crap, harassing people, threatening people. He's going to be in the same boat as his wife with a felony that he pleads down to a misdemeanor. Yeah, right. People, I'm going to be bringing so much more your way. In the meantime, you know the drill. Buyer beware.